All right, welcome to Niners Nightly. Larry Krueger here at the wonderful studio of, I would say, the sports leader, but the YouTube studio of Niners Nightly as we come to you on a Monday on YouTube only. YouTube only tonight because of the Monday Night Football game going on, and then we got USF basketball. So I'm over here on the YouTube channel and glad to be here. So, um, we have a fantastic hour. Normally, I open up the phone lines and take phone calls, but since we don't have the phone lines tonight, we will open up the chat and let you guys, if you have some questions or comments about the game, feel free to post them in the chat, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on this hour. We're also going to get into the Bills next week. We're going to get into the rumors that some say Daniel Jones ought to come to the Niners. We'll get into the Pro Football Focus breakdown of the Niners Packers. I'll give you my top 10 49er conclusions from the game. We'll recap the game in Green Bay, and we'll have a sound file. We're going to do a sound file from a little sound review of the 49ers. By the way, Monday Night Football going on, the Harbaugh Bowl Part 2. I was at Part 1 in the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, which went to John Harbaugh. Well, it looks like Jim Harbaugh might be getting some revenge tonight. His Chargers up 10-0 on the Ravens in the second quarter. 11:23 to play and 11:26 to play in the second quarter in LA. Chargers, Ravens with the ball on their own 30-yard line. Chargers with a 10-0 lead. We'll keep our eye on that throughout the day. But what we always like to start with what happened today in Santa Clara. So we'll do that, even though there was no practice today. But what there was a Kyle Shanahan press conference. And Kyle's after the day after press conference was held today, and just we'll go through that. He always starts with injuries, and there were a bunch. Renardo Green has got a neck injury. He's day to day, probably going to wind up playing against Buffalo, would be my guess, but a neck injury, so day to day for Renardo. John Feliciano is done for the year. He was on the IR. They opened his practice window. His knee didn't respond when he began to practice, and so his career could be over. And he tweeted out, "Hey, if my career's over, it's been a hell of a ride." John's a first class individual for sure. So, interviewed him a couple weeks ago. Really glad that I did now because that might be the last time I get a chance to. Had a great career with the Hurricanes, with the Raiders, with the Bills, with the Giants, and now with the Niners. So. The knee just wasn't responding, and the body wasn't willing. So Feliciano's 3-week window closes, and they put him on season-ending IR. And it's not that I don't think he could play. I think also, it's a situation where they can only have so many guys they can bring off IR, and I think they want to save that spot. And I think they don't view Feliciano as an upgrade on Brendel, that they view him as a backup. So why use one of your activation spots on a guy who's going to be a backup offensive lineman when you have more pressing needs? So I think that's really what the story is there. Demo Lenore has got some knee pain coming out of this game. He had an MRI. We don't have the details yet on that MRI. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, I thought, played really strong in this game. He had a knee injury and is considered day-to-day. Aaron Banks is in the concussion protocol. So his status for Buffalo up in the air. Jordan Elliott, Niners defensive tackle, also in the concussion protocol. So that's a big, major injury. Elliott's a big part of what they do on the inside. Dom Pooney, who had his worst game as a pro, has a shoulder injury and had an MRI. There's no details yet on the extent of Pooney's shoulder injury, but or what the MRI showed. Kyle Shanahan was asked about Mooney Ward today. He said he'll practice in full this week on Wednesday, and he said, we'll just see how it goes. The Niners don't want to put any pressure on Mooney to come back. They know he's been through a tragic situation, and he's going to come back on his own schedule, and they're going to hold to that. Kevin Givens with the groin strain, they say Kyle said may practice on Wednesday. Jacob Cowing is also in the concussion protocol. We saw him sprinting on the field Thursday. So he's probably going to make his way back by this week, but maybe not. We'll see. But he's in the concussion protocol. So that pretty much updates you on all of the injuries outside of Brock Purdy. Now, Brock Purdy had an MRI on his shoulder. He had a second MRI on the shoulder. He did some light throwing today without issue. and he'll rest tomorrow and be back out there Wednesday. Shanahan said the rest, did him, helped him, that he's had he has less pain. He, he was definitely feeling the pain in Thursday's practice. They shut him down for the weekend, and he did some light throwing today. And he said that, he felt a little bit better. So we'll see. Hopefully it responds this week. And Shanahan was also asked about, the fact that the 49ers are 5-6. And he said, there's nothing we can do about it at this point other than come back Wednesday and be ready to fight. And I think that's probably the best approach, just try to simplify things as much as possible. The Niners practice week this week will be the same as usual, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So they will be practicing on Thanksgiving, even though there's no media availability on Thanksgiving Day. Dre Greenlaw will practice with the team this week. He will have his 3-week practice window opened. The word was that Dre was going to probably not be activated until the back part of that window. It's a 3-week window. So I don't think he's going to play in Buffalo, but there's a very good chance that he plays against the Bears the week after. Kyle talked about Nick Bosa today. He's got the hip and the oblique, and they'll just see what he looks like on Wednesday. Trent Williams has got the ankle. They'll just see what he looks like on Wednesday. They're kind of in the same boat with Brock Purdy. Just see how much they can handle, how much pain they can handle. Neither of those guys has to really practice to play, between Bosa and Trent. He was asked today about Brandon Allen and if Brandon Allen's going to start if Purdy can't go in Buffalo, and the answer is yes. Shanahan said that he felt like Brandon Allen did some really good things. He needed to hold the ball better in the pocket with bodies around him. But other than that, he made some good throws. He was asked about Fred Warner, and Warner has been kind of disappointing statistically the last week or so, the last couple of games or so. And he just said, hey, he's playing at a high level. I mean, the reality is that Fred's gassed. I mean, Fred is really, really gassed. And that's a big part of it. And but Shanahan's not going to say anything like that. He's not going to go in that direction. He was asked about Deebo Samuel and whether or not Deebo still has the burst. And Shanahan said he has the burst. He had a good kick return. He had a good, pass that he caught. But, even though Shanahan says he has the burst, a lot of the same plays in the past where Deebo would have gotten big gainers, he's not getting big gainers on him now. So they're either not surprising anybody, or he doesn't have that burst, or he's lost a little bit of a step. The numbers seem to indicate that he's lost a step. He hasn't been very good since the bye week. And Kyle also talked today about the big story in the game, which was 19 missed tackles, 15 in the first half. Shanahan says their internal accounting of the thing is that it's closer to 12 missed tackles in the first half, but that's nitpicking because it doesn't really matter. 12 is a ton. 15 is just more, so that's way, way, way too many missed tackles early on. Kyle admitted that there was some issues with the footing at Lambeau Field, but he said, hey, it's Lambeau Field in November. And he was asked how you fix the penalties, and it's just, you fix the ones that you can fix. You talk about the ones that you committed, and you try to be better. There's no magic elixir that eliminates penalties and how you fix penalties. So that's what pretty much happened today as far as Santa Clara was concerned. There was no media availability other than the Kyle presser, and you just got a full recap there of what Kyle said today at his presser. All right, let's talk a little bit about the game. This was just an incredibly frustrating game. 49ers, fell into a 17-0 hole. Before you could even look up, they were just buried. They couldn't even, they needed to dominate the time of possession. They got dominated in the time of possession. They needed to run the football a ton. The Packers ran the football a ton. So, the Packers just took their game plan, what should have been their game plan, and took it right to the 49ers. 42 carries for 169, 4 yards a pop for Green Bay. And they were all, it wasn't like the Niners. It wasn't like, oh, well, they had just one long run. No, Jacobs had an 18-yard run. Emmanuel Wilson had a 19-yard run. They just ran right through the Niner defense all day. Josh Jacobs had 4.1 a carry. Emmanuel Wilson had 4.6 a carry. Both backs had a lot of success, and the Niners couldn't run the ball, couldn't stop the run. That's where football starts. If you can't run it, and the Niners couldn't run it, 2.8 a carry. Christian McCaffrey had 1 9-yard run. So, I mean, he really struggled. So he had 10 carries for 22 yards outside of his 1 9-yard run. That's 2 a carry. That's not good. And Jordan Mason had a 16-yard run and yet wound up with 3 carries for 8 yards because he had negative carries on 2 of his other 2 carries. So his other 2 carries went for negative 8 yards because his 1 carry went for 16. But they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't stop the run. They missed a ton of tackles. Deebo was awful. He had 1 catch on 4 targets. Ricky Pearsall, total non-factor. It's like he didn't play. Kittle was outstanding. He caught 6 balls for 82 yards on 6 targets. He also got in the end zone. McCaffrey ran well inside. He just didn't run well outside. Niners fumbled it 5 times. They only lost 2 of them, but 5 fumbles. I mean, and I thought Malik Mustafa played amazing. He had 9 tackles, 3 solo. He had a tackle for a loss. He had 2 or 3 big hits. He definitely stepped up. Leonard Floyd stepped up with 2 huge sacks. So that was good to see. But yeah, it was a rough game for the 49ers. They fell into a hole. If you look at the numbers kind of reveal everything. Packers had 22 first downs. Niners only had 11. Niners only had like 3 rushing yards at halftime. They went 3 for 10, the 49ers did on 3rd down, 0 for 2 on 4th down. So 3 for 12 on 3rd and 4th down conversions. They ran 20 less plays than Green Bay. It was just a bad day at the office. They got outrushed 169 to 44. 49ers ran for 2.8 a carry. That to me is the most disgusting number of all of them. Why? Because the Bears the week prior ran for like 5.5 yards a carry against the same Green Bay defense. The Niners the following week run for 2.8 a carry with Christian McCaffrey toting the rock, the reigning offensive player of the year. 9 penalties for the 49ers. I mean, that's way too many. Too many undisciplined plays. Back-to-back 12 men on the field penalties. That is like unheard of. I mean, that right there could probably cost Sorensen his gig. And then 3 turnovers, -3 on the turnover table. And they got out-possessed in this game, even though the Niners were the number 1 time of possession team in football. They got out-possessed by 14 minutes almost. 36-43 for Green Bay, 23-17 for the Niners. So it was just an ugly game. And Green Bay, by the way, didn't play all that well. Jordan Love didn't look good. He was 13-23, had a couple touchdowns, but he didn't look good. Jacobs looked good, but it wasn't like spectacular. It wasn't anything special. They did a nice job at shutting down Christian Watson. They shut him out. He had no catches, not a single catch. He dropped a deep ball. Oh my God, it was an absolute bomb Hail Mary touchdown. Christian Watson in the clear, right on the hands. Boop, dropped it. They did a decent job against the receivers. It wasn't like any receiver lit them up. It wasn't the Packers' leading receiver at 54 yards. But it was all Green Bay. I mean, the 49ers, it wasn't like the Niners gave up jailbreak on Brandon Allen. Green Bay only had 2 sacks and only 3 hits on the quarterback. Xavier McKinney had an interception. Brandon Allen threw a ball right to Quay Walker, who dropped it, so he could have had a second interception. So the turnovers, too many turnovers, too many penalties, but too many missed tackles, and they could not stop the run to save their life. So that's what really stood out. They just really, really struggled to stop the run, and they missed a ton of tackles. 10 in the first quarter, somewhere between 12 to 15 in the game. I mean, that's just way too many missed tackles. So that's it right there. Taking Dre Greenlaw out of their defensive equation, replacing with Devondre Campbell did not help. That has not helped. And Fred Warner has worn down. Azeez Al-Shaair is no longer on the team, so they really badly miss Azeez and Greenlaw. Their once vaunted linebacking core is just nothing compared to what it used to be. So that's where they're at. And if you say, where did they really slide so fast? Last year, their wide receivers were amazing. This year, no. Last year, their linebackers were fantastic. This year, no. So, I mean, those are two areas. Those are two areas where this football team wasn't just good. They were great, like as good as any team in pro football. And now they're not even average. So, they're really, really struggling in both categories. All right. Now, this portion of the show, of our hour here, we're 15 minutes in. I want to do a little sound breakdown before we get into reading some of the chats. And, feel free to leave your comments, and we'll definitely read as many chats as we can. Moon Man's like, Larry hasn't slept. Yes, I have. I have slept. I just said this is the way I look, Moon Man. This is how I look even with sleep. Anyway, but we'll get to some of the comments here in the chat. So please leave your comments, and we'll definitely read some of them. But I want to react to some of the sound review of the day, because there was a bunch. There was a bunch today. So let's go through them one by one. First, we're going to share the screen. This is Cowherd weighing in on the 49ers. And here it is from his, this was out of RSF 49ers, the great Raj from RSF 49ers put this out on his X channel. Here is Cowherd's review of the Niners.
Let's start with Green Bay 38, San Francisco 10. So, I mean, you knew it was trouble. Bosa out, Brock Purdy out, Trent out. But as I was watching this, it was more than that. Because, I mean, Green Bay gave them opportunities. I think you have to have a hard look in the mirror. And it's hard in the NFL when you still have really good people in the locker room. I think this franchise needs a complete reboot. If you look at the Detroits, the Green Bays, Buffalo, Kansas City, the Chargers are up and coming. San Francisco is like an old fighter, John. They're like an old boxer. Last year, they were hanging on, had one last good fight. Stop drafting receivers, rebuild the O-lines and D-lines. Bosa's hurt, Kittle's hurt, McCaffrey's hurt. You know this organization well, but listen, Green Bay was going to win this game. You could tell 2 series in. I think San Francisco has to hyper aggressively reboot the franchise.
Well, it's tough when you're paying all these guys all this money. They've recently invested. I think the best thing that could happen to them, because they're not making the playoffs, keep losing these games. I said, today was not a great day for Dallas. Like, they're not going to the playoffs. You win, it ruins your draft position. If you're the 49ers, you want to be drafting 7th, not 15th, right? Because we know quarterbacks usually go, and that gives you an opportunity to get one of the best players on the board. They play Buffalo next week. That's a loss. The Rams, they still play the Cardinals. Like, they could lose these games, and I would imagine they do. So, I mean, I think you're looking at best a 7-win team. And I think right now, not winning maybe one more game the rest of the season. This Purdy thing, it was well reported today. Like, they're not even sure what's going on. Bosa hurt one hip, then he hurt another. Trent's just a weathered, older player. This team, you know what they need? They kind of need to get bounced in the first round. Or, I mean, not even make it to the first round of the playoffs and get extra time off and get to reset. It happened to the Warriors. Remember, they had 2020 was really rough couple years. Then they were fresh, then they won a championship.
Well, remember, the Niners' last Super Bowl loss went 6-10. Were injury ravaged.
So, to me, the best, easiest way for them to get players, they're not going to have a lot of cap space because of all the big cap, hits they have with players, is to have like the 8th pick in the draft. Because it's not just the first round, it's every round. And they've proven to be able to draft really well in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. When you're drafting in the top 10, there aren't really many excuses to miss, like when they're drafting in the late 20s. So I think the best case scenario, roll out the team they're rolling out, and their schedule's hard. I mean, they still play the Dolphins, who look good right now. Obviously, they got the Bills next week. They're just going to naturally lose a lot of games, which I think is really going to benefit them long term.
Wow. Wow. All right. So that was the first reaction. I mean, Cowherd, they need an organizational reset. I didn't know what direction he was going. Was he going to say fire Shanahan, fire Lynch, fire both, move on? But what is it? What would you define as an organizational reset? And then John saying, "Oh man, tank for draft position." That's hard to hear. Now, as they sit right now, I could actually share the screen on this too. You guys could take a look at this. Here, I'm going to share the screen on this one. This is tankathon.com. Tankathon. How appropriate, since they just said tank. And if you look here, the Niners are down here at 17. They're 5-6. They've got a 455 win percentage. And so their strength of schedule, by the way, is 553, which is really high. Compared, I mean, I think that might be the highest. Who's got a higher strength of schedule than the 49ers? Chicago has got a 555. And then the Niners. How about that? 553. Really high. Strength of schedule, very, very difficult. So that's the Niners have the second highest strength of schedule win percentage. So anyway, they're 17th, and they're sitting there. They're tied with the Rams at 5-6, Tampa at 5-6, Miami's 5-6. You got Indy at 5-7, Bears at 4-7, Dallas at 4-7, Cincy at 4-7, New Orleans at 4-7. I mean, theoretically, if they could probably wind up with a top 10 pick if they, as John says, lose out. God, I can't even believe we're having that conversation. All right, now here's the mock draft. They have Travis Hunter from Colorado going 1, then Shedeur Sanders, that's Dion's kid, going 2. Cam Ward going 3. They had Cam Ward in the second round a month ago. So now they're realizing what's going on here. So this is pretty accurate. I think this is pretty accurate. So right now you got Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward 3, Will Campbell, who's the top offensive lineman. That's the guy that they really need. He's at 4. Mason Graham from Michigan, great defensive line. He's on the defensive line with Kenneth Grant, who I love. He's 5. Teteroa McMillan, the gigantic wide receiver from Arizona, is a monster. He's a stud. He's 6. Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan, 7. Kelvin Banks Jr., a big tackle from Texas. Abdul Carter is 8. Abdul Carter, the edge rusher from Penn State. Really like Abdul Carter. He's awesome. He's at 9. Ashton Gianti, the running back from Boise State, who's having an amazing year. He's got over 2,000 yards. He's 10. And then Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia, he's a stud. He's 11. Nick Scouton from A&M on a very good A&M line with Shamar Stewart, Shamar Jones. Is that it? Shamar. They got 2 Shamars there. And then Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan's going 13. Here's Kenneth Grant from Michigan, 6'3", 340. That's the guy that I'd want right there, Kenneth Grant. The Niners picked 17. They haven't taken James Pierce, who's an athletic edge rusher from Tennessee. He's nice. And then right behind him, they have Mikael Williams from Georgia, who's a blue chip defensive end. Jalon Walker, who comes off the edge for Georgia, but he's a all-world linebacker. To me, that's another guy that I'd want. I out of this list, the guys that I'd want that are beneath where the Niners pick at 17 would be Jalon Walker from Georgia, monster athlete. Tyleek Williams from Ohio State, the big defensive tackle. Walter Nolan, the big defensive tackle from Ole Miss. He's an awesome player. These are all really good players. Jack Sawyer, the edge rusher from Ohio State, at the end of the first round, they're saying he's going to go to the Lions. Anyway, so you see right there, okay, so they're at 17. They could get James Pierce, Jalon Walker, those kinds of guys. And if they got up to 10, maybe they could get Abdul Carter or Ashton Gianti. Malachi Starks would be an awesome safety for the 49ers. He says a lot of those guys are like, don't draft wide receivers, but man, who are their wide receivers next year? If you could get Teteroa McMillan, I think I would do it. He was Jacob Cowing's teammate at the University of Arizona. If I could get Teteroa McMillan, I would draft him. Anyway, just an interesting little breakdown there. So that is and we'll stop sharing the screen, but that was the first review of yesterday. So you've got Cowherd and Middlecoff saying they had a tank for draft position, and Cowherd coming out and saying, hey, you know what? They need a franchise reset, which is pretty dramatic. I got to be honest. A franchise reset sounds pretty dramatic. All right, let's hear from Schefter. Let's hear what Schefter had to say. He was on with McAfee today. And here's Schefter's thoughts on the 49ers. Let's hear what Adam said on the McAfee show.
What's the conversation about the Niners' future right now?
The whole year, to me, has felt off with them. And it wasn't like it just happened late, but there have been a series of incidents that they've had to overcome throughout where it just felt like it was never going to be their year. That's how I felt all along. Now, you keep waiting. You keep waiting to see if at some point with the talent that they do have, if they can find a way to turn it around. That's the interesting part of all this, but it hasn't happened yet. And it's getting late. And you look at the division and the standings, they are one game back. Now, they haven't won a game in their division, so that's going to be a problem. But they are only one game back of Seattle. So, again, can they turn it on here and find a way to win? They haven't played well enough to be able to do that so far. They've had too many injuries to be able to do that so far. You talk about yesterday and going into Green Bay with Brandon Allen at quarterback. Here's the schedule. Tough game Sunday night. Week 14, the Bears.
Tough team.
At home.
Yeah.
15, home Rams. At Miami. Detroit. Good luck there. Maybe the Lions have everything wrapped up. At Arizona.
2 weeks.
Again, the Niners, they just have not played consistent enough football. They have not played good enough football to make you think right now that they can go and turn it around. Now, again, maybe the switch will go on and they'll show everybody that they are as good as they were last year. The problem is, like when they go into that game yesterday, the defensive line that they lined up against the Packers in the NFC divisional playoff game 10 months ago was entirely different. This defense this year has been different. They haven't gotten the pressure that they've needed. They haven't gotten the turnovers that they've needed. They haven't come through with the big plays that they've needed. And when you introduce all the other injuries that have come along, you're missing George Kittle 1 week. You're missing Brandon Ayuk all year. Christian McCaffrey's not back till later. Brock Purdy's out yesterday. You know, in this margin of error is so small that it just feels like all the goodwill they've had in recent years has run out this year. Just the way that it's felt. Now, again, they've got 6 or so games to turn it around. We'll see if they can do it. And it's getting late early there.
Yeah, so there's Schefter. He showed that schedule. I don't know. I think the 49ers are probably going to get 3 more wins. Rams, Bears, and either Cardinals or Miami. That'll be my guess. Maybe 4. They're either going to be 8-9 or 9-8. That's how I see it. They're 5-6 right now. I think they got 3 more wins in them for sure. So that would give them 8. That would make them 8-9. Maybe they got 4, which would make them 9-8. Is 9-8 going to get into the playoffs? Probably not. Probably not. So that's the situation that they're in, and it's you can't kick all these division games. You just can't, and they have. So that's a major problem. Here's another interesting little breakdown on the Niners, I thought, from today. This is Chris Canty. Here's Chris Canty weighing in on the Niners. This is off the Coach Yak X channel, but Chris Canty from ESPN.
The Niners are in big trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Big trouble. Nobody's healthy. They're not playing well when they are healthy. They're going into the offseason, where there's going to be a ton of conversation about the Brock Purdy contract. In no way, shape, or form are they record-wise done, but they are in last place in a division that no one is running away with. Seattle 6-5, Arizona 6-5 after the Seattle win against Arizona yesterday. The Rams lose last night, as we've discussed, to the Eagles. They're 5-6, and the Niners are 5-6. The Niners are not a good football team right now. They feel, based on their play and based on their health, that they're done. Based on the way that division is, somehow, some way they could still squeak in. Doesn't seem likely at this point.
They're done.
You want to say they're done altogether?
No, they're done. They're done.
I'm not ready to do
they're
that
done.
yet.
Their season is done. The championship runs with this core of players is done. It's over. It's over.
Yeah, I'm not ready to do it yet.
Well, you can say you're not ready to do it. Yeah, you'll get to the party late, but it's over. I've been telling you that for a while now. It's over. Like the window is closed, the curtains are drawn. It's a wrap.
You told us at the end of last year in the Super Bowl. You said the window is closed.
It's a wrap. They weren't going to get off the map from Kyle Shanahan deciding to take the ball first.
Third possession.
I mean, think about it, Smalls. They've played 12 playoff games since 2019.
Wow.
That's damn near a season.
Wow.
In playoff games. That's a lot of football games to play without actually winning the ultimate prize. And now you're seeing all of those games start to take a toll on older veteran players, guys like Christian McCaffrey, guys like Trent Williams, guys like George Kittle, guys like Deebo Samuel. It catches up to you.
Mm-hmm.
And the 49ers should consider themselves caught.
So there you go. Chris Canty, the former Virginia defensive lineman, says they're done. He does make one really, really good point. 12 playoff games. 12 since 2019. So there's only, 17 games in a season. 12 playoff games, and the way you play playoff games where your starters play, big, all the time, and you're going for it in a big way. You could almost say that 12 playoff games would be harder than 17 regular season games. They essentially have played an entire season of extra football, and it's caught up with them. It's absolutely caught up with them. Fozzie says phones open. No, we don't have the ability to take phone calls, unfortunately, but you can leave your comments in the chat. We have, I take video calls on my channel. And I probably could put the video link in the chat, which we could do. We could do that actually. So I'll do that. I'll put the video link in the chat. So if people want to call via the video link, we'll see if you can get through. I've never tried it on the KMBR channel, but I put the video call link in there. So if you want to jump in via the video calls, we can do that. But I mean, Canty was like, they're done. But I mean, he does make a good point that they've played a lot of extra football, and it does catch up with you. Now, that wasn't the most outspoken person of the day, I don't think. I'm going to give that to my man Dietz over here, and I'm going to play this one from KMBR. This is off KMBR's X page. Here's Dieter on a rant from earlier today, I think. Let me hear this. Oh, well, it's definitely from today. Dieter on Deebo. Listen to this.
Last time I checked, Deebo Samuel wears a C on his jersey.
That's exactly right.
And he can't talk to the media after a loss. I don't want to see the C on the jersey again. I think you strip it from him because he's not been a leader on this team. He's not a leader in the way he plays. He hasn't been a leader in the way he's acted. And I don't want to pretend as if we have some like outsized importance here in the media. It doesn't matter that I don't care.
Job.
I don't care that Deebo Samuel doesn't talk to the media on the principle of not getting to talk to Deebo Samuel. He's a terrible interview anyway, as noted by his podcast, which is just a tough listen.
Way too much Deebo in our sound soiree. Yeah, that's what I was saying last week. I was like, is anybody show up in it more who says less?
We're the only people listening to the damn thing. So that is there. But as fans, you guys should be angry because the reason if media has one role left in this strange flattened out world, it's that we're in the room and we can get somebody to talk, to answer and have accountability for their play or the play of their team, to get some answers, right? Because not everybody can get in and they're not going to go into a YouTube chat and answer every question. Like there is still a little bit of a role for the media in this world. And if Deebo Samuel doesn't want to talk to the media, that's telling everyone that he doesn't want to hear from the fans. He doesn't want to be accountable for his play. And his play has been awful. And his team's play has been awful. And he's wearing a C. And he has the big money contract. And he's the one calling out teammates. This is a bad, bad look. And it could be step one in this thing starting to unravel well beyond Deebo Samuel. So I'm keeping an eye on it. But I don't want to see that C on his jersey again because he's done nothing to deserve it this year.
Ooh. I agree, man. I absolutely agree. Dieter is spot on. He's right. You can't be a leader and only show up at the press conference when they're throwing you bouquets. You got to answer the music. You played like crap. You called out the kicker. You put your hands on the long snapper. You can't do that stuff if you're not going that good. And he ain't going that good. So that was bad. That was bad. For him to bail out on the media yesterday was bad. That was bad. Own it, man. Show up. Show up. You can't call out the kicker and then lock in and then play like crap in big games and then bail out on the media. I mean, come on. You're passing that off on your teammates. That's not being a good teammate. If you're not a good teammate, you shouldn't be the captain. I kind of agree with Dieter there. That is not leadership. All right, let's hear from Richard Sherman. Sherman weighed in as well. And Richard Sherman has had a bunch of things to say, good and bad, about the Niners.
Missed.
Here it is.
The thing that just hurt me more than anything was the tackling. Like, there were 15 missed tackles in the first half alone. I just have never seen it from these same men in these jerseys. Now, there are some new faces, some new people on the D-line, but 15 missed tackles in a game is mind-boggling. But 15 and a half of football, I mean, it was disappointing to watch. It was disappointing to feel, I mean, feel helpless. You feel helpless watching it happen because Josh Jacobs just was doing whatever he wanted. I mean, it looked like 2 or 3 guys have a hold of him and he just runs through the tackle. I mean, it was demoralizing consistently. And that was just the first drive of the game that he was doing this. He was, I think he had 77 yards in the first quarter or something like that. And it just seemed like they had no answer to stop him. He was hitting the first level, second level, third level, and they were just really taking the hearts of the San Francisco 49ers. I think their first drive may have been 7 minutes. And it just seemed like it was just an inevitability that they would score on that drive. Then you say, okay, all right, it's a rough start for the defense, but that happens sometimes. And you think, hey, the offense, you know, I know you got a new quarterback, but this is Kyle. He'll craft something up. I know that that Hafley knows him well. Jeff Hafley, he coached us the secondary my first year in San Francisco in 2018. Really good coach. Understands defense. Understands that offense really well. Has answers. Has the playmakers in the secondary to make plays. Obviously, Xavier McKinney, friend of the program, has made a ton of plays and made some plays in this game. But they just couldn't get anything going. They looked disoriented. I mean, they're slipping, they're sliding. And in the first half, they really had nothing to hang their hat on. They end up putting together a touchdown drive. Really just more of a sigh of relief as a fan watching this game to say, man, this could have been really bad in that first half. Christian Watson drops a wide open touchdown, and you just say, maybe that's the break the San Francisco 49ers defense needed to get back on track, to make some plays. And in the second half, for all intents and purposes, the offense started okay, but, you know, I wasn't able to convert on 4th down in the first drive of the second half. Defense stands up. The defense is looking like their old selves in that second half, getting stops, tackling, moving, flying around. Then here come the turnovers, interception, and then a fumble in the pocket from Brandon Allen, and then a fumble from Christian McCaffrey. And that's when you knew, Mitchell, this was not their day. I really don't have the answers, because you knew that the injuries, this team is so top heavy that when you're without your high paid guys, when you're without Trent Williams, the O-line is going to be average to below average. I mean, without him, and that's why they paid him so much money to come back. That's why when he was holding out, he knew that he would get his money, because without him, they are not a great or good offensive line. But with him, they move into a different stratosphere, because they can do a lot of things to slide away, to protect the rest of those guys, and really make his job very difficult, sliding away, him on the backside, running towards him, running behind 71 like they always do. But when he's not there, the identity just changes. And the offense didn't do Brandon Allen any favors today. There were drop passes all over the place. Tight end dropped pass. Deebo dropped one in traffic. It looked like, you know, he was about to get hit. It was a tight window pass, led to an interception for Xavier McKinney. And it just just couldn't get right. You couldn't find a way. You couldn't see it. And I just don't see the hope, that I want to see. And I know that people are like, man, they're considering Daniel Jones. Even that's disappointing to me, Mitchell. That just shows me how.
I know you want him, Richard. I know you want him there in San Francisco. You've spoken too highly of him this entire season, man. I would love to see him don a 49ers red jersey just for you, my friend.
All right, there you go, Richard Sherman. All right, let's talk about what he said. I mean, he's talking about the missed tackles, and it really does stand out. And it did. It did. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the 49ers are getting gassed, but they miss an awful lot of tackles. And, yes, they missed Dre Greenlaw, but this can't be all about Dre Greenlaw. Come on. You haven't had Dre Greenlaw all year, and they're just missing tackles in bunches. I was like screaming at the TV set this weekend just because they're just so bad as far as they don't wrap anybody up. Jacobs was carrying people 3 yards, 4 yards. Nobody hit anybody. Everybody's kind of arm tackling and holding on and glancing blows. And outside of Malik Mustafa, who just wants to smoke everybody. I mean, he just wants to kill everybody. Nobody else in that team hits. Everybody else is just kind of grab and drag. Here's Sorensen from a few weeks ago. Now, I asked him this question about missing tackles, and listen to what he said at the time. Man, this is like he's talking about a defense that he wants, but it's not the defense that he has. Here's Sorensen from a few weeks back.
What does the film show? Is it fatigue? Are these guys breaking down a little bit?
I wouldn't say it's fatigue. I think we miss tackles sometimes because we're aggressive. Like, we do coach our guys to take their shots. If you show, like, make me a cut up of those tackles and I'll tell you if it's a good or bad one, to be honest. I mean, that's just, we play aggressive. We play violent. We have, I think, sometimes Fred shows up with quite a few missed tackles, but if a guy stops his feet and, they're having to take time and that guy loses a yard, but you kind of fall off. And now we've got two other guys coming, then that's not a bad missed tackle.
These have been bad missed tackles, Nick. So he's talking about his defense there, and he's like, we're aggressive, we're fast, we're violent. No, you're not. No, you're not. You want to be aggressive, you want to be fast, you want to be violent. You may be coaching those guys to do those things, but that's not the way they're playing. Nobody who watched that yesterday would say, yeah, that's a fast, violent, hard-hitting football team on defense. No. They didn't hit anybody all day for the most part out of Mustafa, other than Malik Mustafa, who had a number of big hits. Everybody else kind of just grab and drag. Not that powerful, not that explosive. All right, let's get into my conclusions from watching the game, because I've got 10 or so conclusions, and then we'll hit the chat. Number one, I thought Brandon Allen, there's an awful lot of talk about, Josh Dobbs versus Brandon Allen. I got no problem with Brandon Allen playing. He played fine. And when I watched it again, I thought he even played better than I thought the first time. He made some really good throws. He also threw an interception right to Quay Walker in the first half, and Walker dropped it. So that would have been a pick, and it wasn't. He needed to keep two hands. Allen needed to keep two hands on the ball in traffic. He definitely lost some field awareness on the ball that he kind of fumbled and caught and then tried to make a play. Don't try to make a play. Just go to the ground. Take the sack. Even Tom Brady said sometimes taking a sack is the best thing you can do. So he's going to live and he's going to learn. He hasn't played in a while. His clock's all off. He hasn't played. He's got all this urgency. He's trying to make plays. I thought overall he played pretty well. He doesn't move like Purdy. He's got a decent arm, nothing great. Takes care of the football, even though they didn't take care of the football. But for the most part, he looks like the kind of guy that didn't put the ball in harm's way a lot. He was okay. And I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, man, Josh Dobbs, because I know who Josh Dobbs is. Josh Dobbs has 14 starts in the NFL, and he's 3-11. So all these people, just remember that when you're hearing people, whether callers, hosts, whatever, pound the table for Josh Dobbs like he's Joe Montana in his prime. You're talking about a guy with 14 starts who's 3-11, who's played on like 6 teams. It's like, let's not forget who we're talking about. Shanahan says that Brandon Allen will start in Buffalo if Purdy can't go. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing Tanner Mordecai, just because I think Tanner Mordecai is even a better athlete than these guys, and might even be better long term. But they're not going in that direction. Number 2, Kyle. Use JP Mason. Use Isaac Guerrero. I'm tired of talking about it. Don't make me the ass for making me keep talking about it. Play these guys. CMC has struggled. The 49ers were a better rushing offense before he returned. That's not my hyperbole. That is a statement of utter and complete fact. The 49ers EPA per rush was 10th without Christian McCaffrey. With Christian McCaffrey playing for them the last 3 weeks, they have fallen to 20th in EPA per rush. They're not better with Christian. They should be better with Christian. They're not better with Christian. Use Mason. Use Guerrero. CMC struggled to run outside. CMC running outside the tackles had 7 rush attempts for 11 yards. He ran decently between the tackles, but when it came time to get to the edge, he could not do it. JP Mason is averaging 5 yards a carry for the year. Play him. I mean, it's just absolutely aggravating as hell. JP Mason had a 16-yard run. The next 4 plays were all passes. He didn't touch the ball again until garbage time. It's no longer acceptable to ignore Mason and Guerrero. It's not cute. It's not funny. It's not good. It's not the right move. I understand Kyle loves CMC. Adapt. It's not the same player. Outside the tackles, 7 rush attempts for 11 yards. That's what CMC did in a fumble. Use Mason. Use Guerrero. Guerrero got no touches. None. 0. Come on. Kyle, you got to use your other guys. I mean, in the 3 weeks that McCaffrey has played, the Niners have scored 16.7 points per game. In the 8 weeks he missed, they were scoring 26.3 points a game. He's averaging 3.5 yards a carry. Mason's averaging 5.1. Guerrero's averaging 6 yards per carry. Since McCaffrey came back, Mason has 6 carries and Guerrero has 1. 1. Come on, you're not using these guys as a trio. The Niners' run game, as I said, has dropped to 20th in the league, EPA per rush. Kyle, use your other backs. Stop being so stubborn. CMC is not CMC anymore. And if he is, he's not CMC right now. All right. The Niner O-line is struggling to protect Brandon Allen or to open run lanes for CMC, who averaged 2.8 yards a carry. Interestingly enough, when you did the rewatch and looked at the numbers, Jalen Moore was good. He had the 49ers' best offensive line grade, according to PFF. Pooney had his worst game, 4 pressures, 3 penalties. Brendel allowed a pressure and had 2 penalties. Aaron Banks got beat bad by Carl Brooks in the second half of this game on a couple of different snaps. The Niner O-line is struggling. So when I heard Lynch go on KMBR on Friday with Murph and Marcus and say that the O-line's really good, I don't even know what to say to that. Brendel is literally the lowest rated offensive guard in the game, pass blocking wise. And you're going to tell us they're good? Deebo had a rough game. 2 huge drops. He's clearly lost a step. In the last 3 weeks since the bye week, Deebo's got 10 catches, no touchdowns, and 13 rush yards. He ain't doing it. I mean, love him, whatever. He ain't doing it. The Niner defensive tackles did nothing in this game up front against the run. Josh Jacobs running between the tackles, 18 carries for 76 yards, 4.2 a carry, and 2 touchdowns. They didn't stop the run up the middle. Jordan Love had way too much time to throw. Leonard Floyd was the only guy really playing up front. He had 5 pressures. Leonard Floyd had a 26.4 pressure rate, best of the season for him, and 2 sacks. Leonard stepped up, but the rest of the D-line did not. Devondre Campbell is clearly no Dre Greenlaw. The Niners missed 19 tackles. Warner missed 4 by himself. Campbell's got a 46.2 PFF defensive grade, 3rd worst on the entire team. And then the young DBs, I thought Jair Brown dropped a pick, Renardo dropped a pick, but they had some good plays. And then Mustafa had some monster hits. He had 9 tackles and a TFL, a couple of big hits, but those 2 dropped interceptions definitely hurt. Another big gaffe on special teams, the Eric Saubert holding call cost Deebo. He had an 87-yard third quarter kick return that would have set the Niners up beautifully in the beginning of the third quarter. Nope. It's 1st and 10 on the 21 because of Eric Saubert's holding call. Tim Ryan said it's the worst call of all time. No, it wasn't. The guy had 2 fists of jersey. Okay. Yes, his hands were inside, and they don't always call that when your hands are inside, but he had 2 fists full of jerseys. It wasn't like one and sort of the other. No. He had the guy's chest plate in his hands. And he was driving him to the ground. He kept him in. I didn't like it either. But I mean, when you look at the film and you see the guy's got 2 full hands of jersey, that's a hold. That's what the call was. Holding. He was holding. I hated to see it, but I thought it was a legit call. The Niners were -3 in turnovers. I said it in the pregame to Copeland on the KNBR pregame show and JD. I said, if the Niners are going to win this game, they got to run the ball. They got to run the hell out of it. They got to win the time of possession, and they got to be +1 or +2 in turnovers. I go, if they don't, if those things don't happen, and they're -1 or -2 in turnovers, they're going to lose 38-3, and they lost 38-10. And then the Niners also should have dominated the time of possession, aggressively in this game. They should have really, really focused on that. Instead, Green Bay blew them off the field, and they lost the time of possession by nearly 14 minutes. So, and once again, not to beat up on Brendel, but there are 40 centers in the NFL that have played at least 100 pass blocking snaps. Jake Brendel is ranked 40th. So, I mean, that's it. So, I mean, what are the issues? The Niner issues is, I mean, in no particular order. These are the issues. The O-line's got holes at center and right tackle. CMC looks diminished. Ayuk's done for the year. Deebo's washed up. Pearsall hasn't been very good. Kyle refuses to play his best running backs. The special teams are consistently bad. The defensive line has declined and lacks quality depth. Trading Greenlaw for Devondre Campbell has been a colossal failure. Cutting the last 2 years in camp good corners like Deshaun Jameson and Samuel Womack and keeping veteran has-been corners like Isaac Yadam and Isaiah Oliver were big, big mistakes. And their schedule is brutal. I mean, it's borderline unfair. This Buffalo team will be the 4th team the 49ers have played this year coming off a bye. No other team in pro football has even got more than 2 games against somebody coming off a bye. The Niners have 4 games against teams coming off the bye. You would think that if a league made more money on you like they do with the 49ers because of their iconic status and all their primetime games, you'd think that they would give them a schedule that's a little bit more favorable. Instead, it's like, hey, we're going to use you guys to make as much money as we can for our league, and then we're going to screw you over royally when it comes to schedule equity. No team has worse rest than the 49ers, like -27. And I'm looking at the Ravens tonight against the Chargers. The Ravens and the Niners, if they played on Super Bowl Sunday, the Ravens would show up with 37, I believe. It might be 41, but I think it's 37. 37 more rest days over a regular season that only lasts 4 months. I mean, that is really, really bad. 37 extra rest days over a 4-month regular season. I mean, that's wild. That is absolutely wild. The other thing that I have to throw out tonight is there was a lot of talk yesterday. Daniel Jones got cut by the Giants. You heard some Daniel Jones references in there. Richard Sherman obviously hates Daniel Jones. Should the Niners sign Daniel Jones? Well, Baltimore's a 2-1 favorite to sign him. Vikings are 5-2. Raiders are 5-1. Dallas 7-1. Detroit 7-1. Miami 7-1. Niners are 8-1. Does it make sense? Well, I think it kind of does, actually. I mean, to be completely honest, you have Purdy sitting there. Look what you did with Darnold as far as reclamation projects. I think the reclamation project quarterback concept is one the Niners ought to embrace because I think it's the fastest way to rebuild. If you really want to turn this thing around, you're going to have to get an asset like a quarterback and, help him reclaim his career and then trade him or trade or go with them and trade another quarterback. But that you want to turn your fortunes around quickly, invest in good quarterbacks or reclaim a couple of quarterbacks to be good, and then turn around and trade them for, day 1 or day 2 picks in the draft. Right. The Niners couldn't do that with Sam Darnold, but let's just say they had Sam Darnold under contract. I mean, Sam Darnold probably would have fetched a little something. Or they could have gone with Sam Darnold and traded Brock Purdy if they wanted to go that route. But Daniel Jones is interesting. He's big. He's fast. You got to remember this. A lot of people compare him to Alex Smith because he is big and smart and athletic, and was a high first round pick. And it hasn't been natural. It wasn't natural for Alex. Alex didn't really become Alex until his 8th year in the NFL under Harbaugh in 2011 or whatever it was, 2013 or whatever it was, 2012. He'd been bad. I mean, Alex Smith was a product of the 2005 NFL draft. He didn't play good football until Harbaugh came to the Niners in 2011. So, 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, those were all bad years. And he still found his way to a very good career and played some outstanding football in Kansas City. So the hardest thing to evaluate is the quarterback versus what's going on around the quarterback. So is Daniel Jones good? No, he's been really bad. He's been a turnover machine. Would he be good for the Niners? I don't know, but I think he's better than Dobbs. I think he's better than Brandon Allen. If it doesn't cost you anything, I don't know why he'd pick them because he probably wants to go to the playoffs this year. They're not going to the playoffs, but maybe he feels like, hey, they reclaimed Darnold. Maybe they could reclaim him and turn his career around. All right, let's hit the chat here from the last few minutes. Niner Gang says, fire Kyle, fire Jed, fire John, fire the water boy. Did I miss anyone? LOL, joking, Larry. There you go. Okay, let's see. We got this one from Bunab. So are we mailing it in for the season? Well, there's no reason to mail it in. The division's bad. Just play it out. See where it goes. Moonman says Larry hasn't slept. Yes, I have. I've slept. This is the way I look. Come on Friday. Larry, what do you make of Kyle talking about defensive adjustments? Yeah, they were really bad on defense. They could not stop the run to save their life. Now, they haven't been good on offense either, and he's got to own that, but I think his comments on defense were appropriate. I think the defense has been bad. I think the coordinator's got to go. I think he needs a better coordinator. I think they need a better coordinator. I think they need a better linebacking core. I think they need a better defensive front. Callie Young says, Larry, is there any legitimate centers that could help us? I haven't checked the center market, but I think they've got good centers on the roster right now. I like Drake Nugent. I really do. I think Drake Nugent's got a future. In fact, I'd like to see Nugent play. Let's see. We got this one from Niner Gang. Larry, safe to say we have a need at all positions except running back. I don't know about all positions, but most. You're looking pretty good right now in the defensive backfield with some good young players. You don't need a kicker. You don't need a punter. But yeah, you need a lot. You need a ton. 49ers are in that spot now where they need to kind of, figure out where they're going to be as far as draft choices and start rebuilding and you start hitting. What's the biggest problem the Niners have is they've made 10 first-round draft choices, and they've missed on at least 8. You know, I mean, the only guys that they've drafted in the first round that have hit are Bosa and Ayuk. Other than that, almost everybody's been a bust. And I'd love to say Ricky Pearsall hasn't been a bust, but Ricky Pearsall is a bust until he does something, until he proves that he's not. He didn't do anything this week. He didn't do anything last week. He's not getting a lot of separations that can command the room like a Vrabel or a Rex Ryan. I would have paid Bill Belichick whatever he wanted to come here and be the defensive coordinator. You know, I mean, I do think they need a different direction on defense. I really do. They tried to go internal. I think they need a star coordinator. They need somebody that Kyle can just be like, you're worrying about the defense. I'm not worrying at all about the defense because I've got a guy who's thoroughly capable, not a first-year coordinator. And Brandon Staley didn't get it done in L.A., but he was supposedly going to get it done here. Look at the Chargers defense last year with Brandon Staley. Look at the Chargers defense with many of the same players this year without Brandon Staley, and then tell me he's a great coach. I don't see that at all. Jacob says they missed the tackles, Larry, because they are trying to blow everyone up, not wrapping. They're not even getting lots of hats on the ball. They're not even getting lots of hits. It's not like guys are flying all over the place. They're barely hanging on. I mean, there was a play in the flat yesterday where the ball was thrown to the flat to the back that released, and Campbell was like 18 yards down the field. I mean, and he had the flat. He was the defender on that side of the ball, and he was 18 yards down the field, and the guy just ran and ran and ran. It's like way too much space. Way too much space. That Campbell has really been a bad signing. Frisco Pisco says the problem is Larry, other teams know Kyle. When CMC's healthy, Kyle will use them 100% of the time. Stop using him 100% of the time. Come on. Stop using him 100% of the time. He's averaging 3.1 a carry. You got two backs that go for over 5 a carry. They're sitting right there. Use them. Stop playing favorites. Use your young backs. They're better at this point. They're proven to be better. Frisco Pisco says, you're at practice. Is Deebo participating in these team practices? He is. He's there. He just seems to have lost a step. He's not getting the big plays, especially as a runner. But I mean, you can't call out the kicker and put your hands on the long snapper and then no show and have big drops in key moments. You can't tell other guys to lock in and then you lock out and don't show up to answer to the media. You know, do I agree with Dieter that he should lose his captains? I kind of do. That's not leading. That really isn't. You know, if you want to be the captain, then you got to lead. Lead means you lead. Good times, bad times. Anybody can lead in good times. It takes somebody with some intestinal fortitude to lead during tough times. That's what they're facing right now. Tough times. All right. And that's going to do it for us. That was a quick hour. Thanks to all of you guys. I hope you liked the format tonight. We decided to go through some of the reactions from around the country. I hope you liked some of those. Just give you a couple other opinions on the 49ers. I'm back on the radio tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. We will have Niners Nightly tomorrow, and Wednesday we will take Thanksgiving off. We will take Friday off. So no Niners Nightly on Thursday or Friday. I hope all of you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure, on Wednesday. But have a great night, and thanks for supporting Niners Nightly on The Sports Leader. Thanks to all of you, and have a great night on The Sports Leader.